the Teaching Tax Flow podcast, where the goal is to empower and educate you to legally and ethically minimize taxes paid over your lifetime.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, episode 89 today. We are going to dive headfirst into why real estate investing is so popular in the tax world. But before we do that and meet our amazing guest on this topic, let's take a brief moment and thank our episode sponsor.
Hi, Chris Picciero here, founder of Teaching Tax Flow, co-host of the Teaching Tax Flow podcast, and pickleball enthusiast. Yes, if you listen to the podcast, you know almost every episode we talk about pickleball, the most popular and growing sport in America. We have tons of opportunities for paddles and pickleballs, but we don't have a lot of great gear on the market. Well, I'm so excited to announce that Sunsets and Dinks are now a sponsor of the Teaching Tax Flow podcast and produce amazing gear, not only to look at, but you feel confident on the court. Because you are part of the Teaching Tax Flow community, you get a 15% discount on all your orders with them. I know I love the gear I received, and I have quite a good record while wearing it, believe it or not, even at my level. Go to teachingtaxflow.com/pickleball and simply enter TTF15 in the serve up promo code area of your paddle rack.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Teaching Tax Flow podcast. So I know this is a topic that's come up a lot. And it's not us just saying that it comes up a lot for the sake of saying that it comes up a lot. It truly does. How in the world does real estate investing play a huge role in taxes? So obviously, you know this guy that's going to hop on with us, the bald tax guy. We say he has all the knowledge and no hair. Chris Picciero, welcome back to your own show, as always, buddy.
John, you're always full of compliments. Thank you very much. And you look dapper as usual. You got your beard trimmed. You don't look like the unfrozen caveman lawyer. And I got your hair cut for our event in Michigan recently. So I'm impressed, man. It's good to be back.
Hey, we had a heat wave coming up. I had to do something with my life, right? So it's, it is. And you know what? Basically, I wish I could take my hair and invest it in something. So, very fitting to this show. And Chris, I'll let you introduce our guest here in a moment. But again, we hear this question so much, even since we started this podcast, right? Literally almost 100 episodes ago. I feel like this comes up at events. This comes up in random conversations. It comes up in coffee shop chats, whatever we have. So many people are interested in this. But also, I'm not going to call myself an expert by any stretch of the imagination. But I think there's a lot of kind of mystery around this a little bit, right? Sometimes people think it's a lot harder to get into than it is. And again, I'll let you introduce our guest. And I know he's got a great story also how he got into the world of REI.
Absolutely. I mean, real estate investing has a lot of tax advantages, but it also has a lot of financial gain. And it's very favored in our tax code. Not many industries are favored in our tax code. And yeah, I mean, I think that fear and not knowing how to get into it holds people back. So we couldn't have a better guest. Bill Allen's joining us, a fellow Tennessean. Sorry, John, you're up in Michigan. Although this time of year, it's nice. But Bill Allen is a friend, a person that I've known for quite a while, someone that I admire and look up to. And although he's extremely successful, he, in my opinion, has an amazing heart because he's willing to share his knowledge with not only adults, not only people getting started in real estate investing, not only with multi-million-dollar real estate investors, but also kids and teens. We're going to touch on that as well. So, Bill, welcome to the Teaching Tax Flow show.
Chris, John, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So, can you give us an idea of just a little bit of your history and how you got intrigued by real estate, how you got bit by that bug, and take us through that journey?
Yeah. So I was a Navy pilot. I retired. I was a flight instructor. I flew helicopters in the fleet, and then I went back as a flight instructor many times. I became a Navy test pilot, so I got to fly all different types of helicopters and airplanes. And to be honest, like along the way, I just got addicted to the TV shows. So the house flipping TV shows. And when I look back at my life, it's like everything that I've just really enjoyed and dove into really deep, I think has come from these TV shows. Like I got into cooking when I was young. It was Emerald Live. I used to watch that show all the time. And then I just started like studying cooking and got like way better at cooking. Like, I mean, to the point where I was buying like cooking textbooks, like French cookbooks, like textbooks, and studying them and wanting to go to culinary school. And then I started watching these flipping TV shows. I had a house in Pensacola, and I just took a sledgehammer to the spare bathroom in the hallway. I was still single, so I didn't have like a wife to get upset with me that I just destroyed the bathroom. I didn't know how to put it back together. So it was like demo day, and I like smashed the bathroom up in like 2 hours. And I was like, oh crap, I have to figure out how to put this back together. And then, just figured it out, watched YouTube, asked people, called my uncle who's a contractor in Maryland when I was living in Florida, and just put it back together, made it really pretty. And I was like, this is kind of fun. I'd like to do this like more. And so that house turned into a rental house. I went to England, got married. We got pregnant pretty quick after I got married when I got back to the US, and just, bought another rental property. And then I ended up flipping a house. I made $43,000 on that flip. It was like half my salary for the year as a Navy pilot. And that was like a game changer for me. So, putting $43,000 into a newlywed's hands that, had never made more than $100,000 a year was life changing. And so I just wanted to do more of that. And so that got me into real estate. I started flipping houses, wholesaling houses. We went from doing one house a year to we did 67 houses the first year, 135 the year after that, 187 after that. We were doing like 200 houses a year for a while. And then like the first year I did 67 houses, we did almost $700,000 in revenue. I had a $150,000 tax bill. And that was the year before I met you, Chris. So $150,000 tax bill. I was like, this is insane. I was like, I didn't have it. I had to pay that money. And that's when I started learning about multifamily, about apartments and passive real estate investments. And since then, I've been able to almost pay no taxes each year. We do have a year still, Chris, that I got a bad K-1 they still owe me money. I got to figure out how to change that K-1 because they're holding about $150,000 hostage of my money, the IRS. So that K-1 is messed up. It has to be changed. It will eventually be changed when I get more time to figure out how to convince the other partner of mine to change it. And but that's been the game, is just how do I use real estate to not pay taxes legally, ethically not pay taxes, because just like you said, the tax code was written for business owners, real estate investors, those kind of folks. So that's kind of, I don't know, my story in a couple minutes.
That is shameless plug. We do have an episode, K-1 for Dummies. No offense to anyone that listens, because K-1s can be confusing. It's a tax form that you receive if you're a member of an LLC, a member of a partnership, or a partner in a partnership, or you own a portion of an S corporation, or if you're a beneficiary of an estate, you would receive a K-1. And those can get pretty complicated, and sometimes they don't follow what was in the operating agreement, and that gets challenging. But so when you flipped your first home in Pensacola, obviously you were stationed there, right? I assume.
Yeah, that first house was a rental property that I like smashed up the spare bathroom. I turned that into a rental house. And then I went to England. I came back and I was stationed in Maryland. So the first house I ever flipped was in Southern Maryland. I bought another rental there first. I fixed that house up, rented it out. So we fixed this house up. I bought a short sale. I finished the basement. It was 1,000 square foot basement. So I did that myself. And then I fixed up the house. I rented that out. And we while we were doing that, we rented a house in a cheaper area. So that house rented for like $2,700 a month. And we rented a house in a neighborhood for $2,000 a month. So that's when I lived there for a couple of years, I rented first. I found the area that everybody wanted to be. We didn't have older kids. We didn't care about the school district. We were willing to live in an area that was like nice, but close to base, close to where I wanted to be, not have to deal with all the traffic. And all the people that had families wanted to live in this other community called Wildwood. So I bought a house there, fixed it up, I rented it out, and I kept the difference. So that's kind of how the way my brain works is very much like, do I have to live there? I don't try to keep up with the Joneses. I tried to, for 20 years, I lived below my means. I saved massive amounts of money. I stacked it up in investments so that now I can live like other people can.
Why do you think a lot of military, I know you coach and mentor a lot of people. You have people on your team that coach and mentor people. A lot of them have military experience. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my dad is a Army veteran. He got drafted into Vietnam. And
wow.
Yeah, so when he came back, he was on the GI Bill and really went to work at Chrysler. Like most of the people that grew up in Detroit, their parents were more blue collar, working for the big three. Although he eventually got into computers and stuff. But why do you think so many people with a military background are successful real estate investors?
Well, number one, you're kind of like forced into it. You have to figure it out. So we move so much. Like I moved 18 times in 20 years.
Wow.
So there's kind of like two sides. You either are just a renter forever, or you're like, I'm going to figure out how to use this VA loan. A lot of the tools and things that we have, I want to buy a house. I want to be a homeowner, but I still have to move all the time. So you're kind of a lot of times like forced in as an absentee landlord in the beginning. But I think they're successful. You asked me why they're successful. I think they're successful because they understand problem solving and strategy in the military. And so we are, and we've also been shot at, like we've risked our lives, most of us. And so like losing a little bit of money on a house, like isn't that big of a deal when you've almost been killed a few times. So like the risk analysis of things, like it's risk benefit equation all the time for the way my brain works. It's just like, what's the risk here and what's the outcome and benefit? And if I can mitigate the risk and greatly increase the benefit, then I'm going to say yes to. And so I think we just probably make decisions a little differently. And I think that goes for anybody who's in a high risk profession. So that could be doctor, lawyer, police officer, nurse, firefighter, military. Like all of those people are in high risk professions from the way I look at it. So they're used to doing scenario-based training, simulations, things like that, to try to figure out what to say yes to and no to. And it's all about mitigating the risk. So a doctor obviously has somebody who's on an operating table that could die. A lawyer has somebody that could go to jail for the rest of their lives if they mess up. Firefighters, police officers, military, nurses, pretty obvious. And so, you have a computer system in your brain, I feel like, that's running in the background that helps you make decisions based on all your training from the past. So I see a lot of like W-2 employees and folks that are just, have worked a job their whole life. They're used to just kind of being in a, and I don't want to like label everyone, but the decision making is a little bit slower and their risk tolerance is a little bit different versus somebody who, I've had people try to crash me into the ground, fly me into the water at night, like all kinds of stuff, that has been really dangerous and scary. I've actually ended up like crashing a helicopter in England when I was there. I wasn't flying, that the other guy was flying, but it wasn't like horrible. We just like smashed the tail, broke it off. Unfortunately, he made a great landing and we walked away. But there's, these are things that you're thinking about all the time. Like you lose friends and stuff. So a decision about losing a little bit of money is not the end of the world for me. And so, but most people, it's like that house is like the biggest decision of their lives. And they think like if they lose, $50,000 or $100,000, their life's over, and it's not really the case.
And Bill, that's actually a great point because I've taught. So I know, speaking personally for myself, we were at your event in Orlando. Wow, it was last year. I already had Flip Hack Live, which was awesome. And that was, to be honest, that was my first experience being in a large group setting with real estate investors and professionals just from all over the country. And it seemed like there were so many stories on how people got into it. And then it seemed like they all wanted something, a little bit different out of it or how they all operate, which was great. But I can absolutely see what you're saying. Some people, just thinking of some friends that we have up here in Michigan, they get so personally attached to a property that they almost want to make it theirs so much that it, in a sense, cuts their legs off as far as for utilizing it as an investment. So I'm glad you brought that up too. But one other thing too, I know you mentioned a little bit earlier on, or Chris had brought it up, talking about kids, and now I know you have a couple events through one of your organizations, really helping out the younger adults and children getting into the space. And I'm super curious on this. So do you see it as, kind of just coaching kids along and just kind of trying to get that mindset in a little bit earlier on as possible, just with entrepreneurship and then investing? And then also a second part to that question is, how many times do you have to have a conversation with somebody that you're like, listen, it's not as easy as you may think it is to get into real estate investing, but it's also not as difficult over here, right? And some people, I don't think, realize that it's not exactly like the TV shows. Now, things do not get done in 30 minutes. And, you're not writing giant checks, every 5 minutes out of that too. So kind of a two-part, the kids, and then also, how you have to coach some of these adults around.
Yeah, the TV shows are, so I'll answer this real quick. TV shows are like staged. The numbers are totally off. Like if you do the math, they're probably making about 40% less than they say they're making on the show, sometimes half of what they're making, just because there's a lot of numbers that aren't baked in. But it makes for good entertainment and gets people involved like me. As far as the kids go, we started this group called Teenage Tycoon. We just did our first like big kids event last week. We had 200 people there, 100 kids and their parents. It was incredible. Like to see what these kids are doing. The reason why we did that and I'm so excited about it is because most people come into our mastermind and coaching programs, adults in the real estate investing program called 7-Figure Flipping. They come in there because they want to change the future for their families. They want to build generational wealth. They want to change the future for their kids. And they want they want like their ceiling to be their kid's floor. That's like the thing that they talk about all the time. And I'm like, well, why don't we just help teach the families too? Like, why are we waiting? Why do we have to wait for you to build your business for 10 years and your kids to be in their 20s to be able to, give that to them? Why don't we just give it to them now? And because what I see is people in their 40s, 50s that are like financially illiterate. Their mindset is broken when it comes to money. They try to fit into the system, and they didn't realize until maybe they're in their 30s, 40s, or even now that they need a different type of educational model. They need to understand money. Money's not a bad thing. It's just a tool. It's not good or bad, frankly. And so all of that stuff, I was like, what if we just do that young? What if we could pour into 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and do it earlier. And so we started just seeing if there was a market for that, if they were interested in it. And last year we did an event at my office for kids age 5 to 18. And it was just so cool to do that we wanted to start doing it at scale. And so, and frankly, what I love is the kids, they don't, like when you say to do something, they just do it. Like they don't ask questions. They don't say, oh, I can't do that. Like they don't know that they can't do stuff. So they're just like, they're the best kids to coach. Like, the adults are like, oh, I can't do that, or I can't say that, or, oh no, like I tried that. It didn't work already. Or I've been thinking about doing that for years. Maybe eventually I'll do it. And the kids are just like, I bring somebody on, a speaker that talks about like making money on the internet, buying stuff at yard sales and selling it on eBay. And next thing you know, their eBay account's set up. That week they've made like $300 on eBay and they're doing backflips in their living room. They're so excited. And the parent, if I told them to do it, a month later, they'd be like, oh, I'm still trying to figure out the perfect name for my eBay account. So I love that. Like I really have enjoyed, teaching the kids. And it's not just the kids either. It's become like co-viewing. They're doing it together. Thursday nights, they're on the couch together, watching it on the big screen TV in the living room. We have these mentors come on. They're reading the books together. They're doing the book clubs together. They're watching the videos together. They're involved and engaged with their kids. And I tell the parents, like, get the kids dressed and bring them to practice, and then I'll take over from there. But they have a responsibility too. You can't just like drop your kid off when they don't want to come, they don't want to go. You know what I'm talking about. You got to get your kids dressed. You got to get them out the door. Like, there's plenty of time where my son doesn't want to go to Cub Scouts, but when I get him to Cub Scouts, he does not want to leave. He will not leave. I have to drag him out of there, and then he's crying because he has to leave his friends. And so my job is to get him dressed and get him there. And then his friends and the other kids and the other people and the coaches and the mentors, they take it from there. And so there's times where as a parent, we just got to get our kids dressed and we know what's best for them and we got to give it to them and then let the coach do their work. So that's kind of I hope I answered your question, but what we're doing with the kids, what I'm really excited about, they're reading books that I didn't read until I was in my 30s. And so they're reading books like Who Moved My Cheese, The Go-Giver, The Millionaire Next Door, The Compound Effect. They're about to read Building a Story Brand. And then these authors, I'm getting these authors to come in and talk to the kids afterwards. Like Donald Miller is going to come in and talk to the kids. Like it's incredible. And yeah, he won't come talk to me and he might now that we've become friends, but like, Russell Brunson came in and talked to the kids. He runs $1 billion company. They do $100 million a year. And I've never been on a 1-hour Zoom call with Russell, and he did it for the kids because everybody wants to give back to these kids.
I think that's all. I mean, you just triggered me on Cub Scouts. My dad wasn't into sports, but he was our pack leader. And it was probably a pain to get me ready for Cub Scouts, but I did that from Tiger all the way to Weeblo to Arrow Light, and then I ended up going the sports route in middle school. But it's my best memories with my dad because he really, like that was more his thing, but it became my thing. And now I kind of feel bad that my parents probably don't listen to this podcast, but if they did, sorry if it was a pain in the butt to get ready. But I still have my Cub Scout uniform downstairs, and I still remember a lot of those lessons.
I'll tell you what, I was an Eagle Scout. My dad made me become an Eagle Scout before I turned 16, or I wasn't going to get my driver's license until I became an Eagle Scout. Because he knew when I got my driver's license, I was never going to go. I was tough. It was not easy to get me to go. It wasn't the cool or popular thing at all in school. My friends made fun of me, but he knew that one day I would look back and I'd be happy that I did it. And I'll tell you right now, I look back and I'm so happy that my dad did that. And I don't even remember any of the times I went kicking and screaming. All I remember is the accomplishment that I had, what it looked like on my applications. Now that I can talk about it when I go to the meetings, I'm a leader there, and none of the rest of them are Eagle Scouts. Like, they're just like, it's really hard to get that. And it was just, you look back, same thing with sports. The challenge is my kid is the coach's son. The coach's son, like, you can't be a prophet in your own town. It just doesn't work that way. So my kid is the only kid at the event last week who was like, I don't want to go, Dad. This is not cool. Like, and he's like, he doesn't want to play the game. All the other kids are playing the game. They're loving it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So the thing is, we can teach our kids this stuff, but you need somebody else to teach what you're teaching, to give it that emphasis. And your family and your kids are going to listen to somebody else more than they're going to listen to you. But they're going to look back one day and say, thank you, Dad, for putting me there. Thank you, Mom, for putting me there. Thank you for bringing this person in my life, drastically and dramatically change the direction of my future. And that's why I do what I do. Like, that's why I hope to be that person that can partner with the parents that want good values, want good financial literacy for their kids and themselves, frankly. Like, dude, we're teaching the 40-year-olds just as much as we're teaching the kids. And so that's been fun. It's been really fun.
I'm going to steal profit in your own town because it's I like that one. That's
I didn't make that up.
That's right. I'll steal it from someone else. Well, if we talk about the kids and teens learning, we're going to touch on maybe some real estate investing for people that have a significant amount of income or assets. But before we touch on that, what are maybe one or two hurdles that the person trying to get that first deal, that first flip, that you see are overcomable? I know obviously financing's challenging if you are a veteran, which there are some special lending programs which are well deserved. But what are one or two hurdles to get that first deal? And is it hard? Are you seeing it's hard for people to take the mentality that, look, I might do my first flip and I might actually break even, but I'm going to learn a ton, and that's going to be payment enough?
Yeah, there's really like two paths that I see. So a lot of people think there's an active path and a passive path in real estate. And so I think you need to really be committed if you're going to be a flipper, or you're going to be a wholesaler, or you're going to be the one that buys the apartments and fixes them up, or somebody that has rental property, that's a very active side of real estate. And accept the fact that you're grabbing yourself another job for a while you build that active income. And that was me. I was trading my time for money in the beginning. I was understanding it. I was learning it. And I was on the active side. There's a whole nother side that's just passive side. Like you said, if you're a high income earner, high net worth person that has money, now you can buy passive income through an apartment investment, a loan to somebody, things like that, where you can actually just like buy the cash flow. So those are the two paths. I usually tell people, like, if you love your job, if you make a bunch of money and your time would produce more results inside of your business than it would going to learn real estate on the side, then put it into your business, produce more money, and then go invest it passively. So that's what I don't know everything about multifamily apartment investing. My partners are very good at operating the buildings, running the numbers, managing the property manager, managing everything. I'm very good at making money and putting it in the apartments, right? So my job is to make more active income and spend my time doing that than going to learn every single thing about the details about the underwriting of the apartment. So those are the two areas that I would point people. Now, if you want to go the active route, just understand it takes some time, but it's a skill set that nobody could ever take from you for the rest of your life. Like, you'll understand real estate, and I love that asset class. Like, it's a total cheat code when I want to go buy my own personal house. People call me all the time asking me about their house. I just looked at a contract for a friend of mine that was selling his house, and he was like, "This looks fishy." And I was like, "It is. Don't take that contract." The real estate agent didn't know. The attorney wasn't sure. Like, I was like, "I've seen this before. I wouldn't." I did a bunch of research on the buyer. Like, bad deal. And so it's something that you can use in lots of different areas of your life. So what I would say is, if real estate's interesting to you, go become an expert at it. Like, figure out how to become an expert. And the way you do it is by doing it and skinning your knee, or by, finding somebody else that will mentor you and help you along the way. But even with the mentor, you're still going to skin your knee. It's just not going to hurt as bad.
Well, I would say if you're someone that's getting involved in the active side of things, there are definitely some tax advantages that you can offset. There are rules. There's rep status, short-term rental loophole, material participation. And those are all we talk about those in our podcast, and not just promote our teaching taxable educational library, but that's all in there. To remember, if you're active, if it's your primary work that you're doing, there are a ton of tax advantages where you can offset other income, either your own or your spouse, in the current year, so that you could accelerate some of the deductions through that, if you do what's called a cost segregation study, and offset that other income. So the point is, if you're that active person, just think about it like this: if you're constantly building your real estate portfolio, you're not going to pay much in tax. That's the best way to think about it. Now, if you're passive, you might not be able to offset some of your other income, but I would argue that passive investing could be very beneficial. A lot of times someone will come in and then I want to flip it to Bill, kind of how a deal would work. But let's say you have someone that wants to invest in an apartment complex. They have $100,000. They're what's called an accredited investor. So they're at a good amount of income, or have $1 million worth of net assets minus their primary home. And they want to put $100,000 and get what we call mailbox money. Well, they might not be able to offset their W-2 wages with some of the depreciation deduction, but guess what? They're getting mailbox money. And if you have a significant amount of income, you're probably paying a 35% tax. So if you can get an 8%, I'm just making numbers, an 8% return tax-free, right? You would have to make 11, 12% somewhere else and potentially have to manage it. So there's that is a nice advantage of being a passive investor. Having tax-free income could be just as powerful as offsetting taxable income somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think a lot of people and just somebody like, oh, I can't take advantage of the tax benefit as a real estate professional, so I'm not going to invest in this. What I love about apartments is it's as close to 100% passive as I've ever found. The key is finding the right partner, finding the right person who's syndicating and running the deal. You want to know who's going to run that project for the next 5 to 30 years, right? Depending on what the timeline is on the project. That's the key. Everybody can make a deal look really good on paper, but when the rubber hits the road, you want to invest with people who are in the trenches doing the right thing, because they're making the decisions with your money and everybody else's money. So, but I mean, you get cash flow and you get net worth growth. So for any investment, I look at 3 things: cash flow, net worth growth, and tax benefit. And so even if you can't use the tax benefit from a syndication or apartment building investment, you're still getting the cash flow and you're getting the net worth growth. So it's like when you look at the stock market, if the stock has dividends and it's going to grow, and the tax benefits are usually like short-term or long-term capital gains. So the long-term capital gains are taxed better, right? And so apartment, same thing. Just because you can't use the tax benefit doesn't mean it's not a great investment. It's 100% passive. And usually we're seeing returns upwards of 16 to 17% plus average annual return. And so we actually haven't produced less than 24% in the last 3 years, average annual return. And we're selling a building right now that was like one of the ones that wasn't performing that well. It's probably going to see somewhere between 13 to 15% that in 1 year. So, and those are not like indicative of future returns. Everything has risk, right? But like, it's a great asset class. Like, everybody's got to live somewhere. There's no housing. We're becoming a renter nation. So these apartments are great opportunities for you to stack cash. And it's also a great inflation hedge. So the key, I think, is to understand it and get to know it a little bit, so you know where you're putting your money and what it can do for you. But yeah, It's hard for me to say no to apartments. I put all my money in there. That's where all my money
Yeah,
is.
I mean, on the passive side, if you're listening to this, here's the way you got to think about this. Imagine that your favorite dessert. I mean, mine's chocolate bumpy cake from a place Saunders in Detroit. But imagine your favorite dessert. Imagine that by eating it, you're not going to lose any weight, but you can eat as much as you want of it and not gain a pound. That's what passive investing is. Right? Because you're getting the delayed tax, but you're getting the income. And because of what we call the depreciation deduction, you might get a big loss. You might get a big deduction the first year you enter into an apartment syndication. Just because you can't use that loss the first year, it carries forward in the future to offset income. So tax-free income and growth, especially for people at a high marginal tax rate, is very, very powerful. So yeah, if you could eat your favorite dessert and not gain any weight, you're going to be happy. And so if you get
all right,
cash,
I'm gonna steal that one. You can have the profit in your own town. I'll take that one.
well, hey, apartment investing I look at it as passive investing is kind of like lifting weights, and active investing is kind of like cardio. You get that immediate result if you're active, but you got to have both. I really think both are good. And
I do. Like I take all the money that I make in real estate and coaching and education and all the different places, and I dump it all in apartments. Like I just put $200,000 in our last deal. We just closed 355 units last Friday again. So 290 before that, 355. And, I put as much money as I possibly can in these things. I mean, you do my taxes, so you see my K1.
And I've seen people that you've worked with come in as a passive investor into a syndication, do a couple, and then actually get interested in it and start doing other things too, because now they're comfortable with it too. They might have that confidence, or they could have that they have that stable amount of income there, and they might take a risk somewhere else. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to real estate investing, all the way from, if you're an accredited investor and you're looking at the syndication, or maybe, like you said, Bill, you can invest. We have some other content on, sometimes you run into people that have a lot of money in their 401k or an old IRA. You could it's times you roll it into a self-directed account and use that to invest in all investments, like lending, and some syndications will accept that money. So where would someone go, like if someone's more interested in learning a little bit more about where they fit in between active and passive? I know you've got a ton of resources and a very popular YouTube channel I've seen too. So congrats on that.
Yeah, it's mostly that. My YouTube channel is mostly aviation stuff and money, and we do interviews in the cockpit. My name, Bill Allen. You can check it out on YouTube and Instagram. It's at Bill Allen REI. You can just send me a message on there, or we have I always am raising money. So like I have a portal that you can go check out. It talks, like, the webinars are in there. Everything's in there. Any deal that we've done in the past and current, you can go check it out. It's 7figuremultifamily.investnext.com. So it's the number 7. So 7figuremultifamily.investnext.com. That's a great place to go just, check it out. And even if you're like, I'm not ready to invest, I just want to understand what some of these apartments look like, you can go in there and look at the PDF, watch the webinar, watch the call that we do, and, spend 40 minutes hearing other people's questions and understanding a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So I would love, if you're an accredited investor, even if you're not accredited, jump in there, get to know us a little bit, and see, like, if we can, or if you don't even understand what that is, like, you can schedule a call with us in there and talk through it. Like I said, you got to pick your partner right. You got to pick the person that has your values. They have integrity, somebody you want to work with, and get to know them. So the best thing you can do is watch a webinar with us and say, yeah, those 3 guys are people that I want to work with. Chad, Bill, and Jason are people that I feel like I could work with. And that's the most important part. I'll tell you that right now.
And yeah, I mean, my business partner and I have invested in a syndication as well. And then, we've realized that there's some things I like to do active, but for the most part, I like passive. Bill, like you said, I'm much better off doing what I do and working and spending time with my kids are in that season now that my time's ticking on them, right? They're 15, 14, and 11. And I started a family a little later than other people. I was in my, 30, 31, or my early 30s. And when it started, and now, it's so fun to hang out with them. So absolutely. Well, I have 5 questions. Johnny T, I used to do this every episode we had a guest, and I don't know what happened, why I went away from it. We're going to go 5.
I don't know. Maybe you scared them off too much. I don't know. Bill, I'd be a little afraid because I don't remember what his questions were. B, I don't know if he tweaked the darn things. So he might, well, like you mentioned, you're used to getting shot at a little bit. So
I think it'll be fine.
You'll be good.
A couple questions on the podcast will be all right.
All right. We'll start with an easy one. What's one fun fact about yourself that people wouldn't know if they went to your YouTube channel or checked out on Facebook or LinkedIn?
When I was a kid, I used to love to break dance.
Oh, little was it Alfonso Ribeiro or what was that dude that he did all the break dancing and those.
I'm not that old, Chris.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I am. No boombox, no booming system.
Well said.
What is your favorite cereal?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Interesting. That was my sister's. Oh well.
I still eat it. I think I had a bowl 2 nights ago.
I'm a big cereal fan. It's if I'm just lazy and I need a bowl of cereal.
Close second would be Cookie Crisp. I could keep going. I like all the sugary cereals because I wasn't allowed to eat them when I was a kid.
Oh, Golden Grams for me. Yeah, we had Rice Krispies. Golden Grams, I love. Cookie Crisp used to have baseball cards in it back in the day. Now, this is tough for you. I mean, obviously, and when people get to know you, you're a very modest guy. I know you travel, you get to vacation a lot. You have a airplane that you can utilize for work. But what's your favorite vacation destination? Yours might be
the Maldives. It's in the Indian Ocean. It's an island chain in the Indian Ocean. It's Maldives, incredible. I've been there twice. Absolutely unbelievable. Like, I love to sit on the beach and snorkel and see the fish. Like, it's my favorite thing to do.
I like it. 2 more. Ideal weekend.
Beach somewhere.
Okay.
Beach or offshore fishing. Like, I want to be doing something like that. So yeah, if I just want to relax, I want to be on the beach. And I just booked my trip to Ocean City, Maryland. We've been going there every year. I grew up just on that beach when I was a kid, and I am so excited about it. Like, I cannot wait to go. We almost didn't go this year because we're going on Disney cruise in a couple weeks, and I said, we have to do it. So we're doing it the week right before school starts. So I just booked it, didn't look back. I'd be on the beach somewhere, like surfing, skimboarding, bodyboarding, playing beach volleyballs, pickleball, whatever. But I need to have sand and salt water.
John, you knew we couldn't have an episode without mentioning pickleball. This might be the first one I didn't mention it.
I was just about to say this one actually goes down in history.
I only brought it up because you guys talked about it before the show. If you didn't bring it up, I wouldn't have said anything.
We're gonna mail you a little trophy. I don't know what it's gonna look like. It's probably just gonna be paper mache, but yes, I'm very shocked. I'm surprised that Chris hasn't brought it up, 2 or 3 times. We should do like the Teaching Tax Flow drinking game with pickleball, and then by the time we get to the end of it, everybody will just be so hammered they won't even know what we're talking about and give us 5 stars.
I like it. You should give 5 stars. So if you're listening to this right now, just leave a 5-star review, especially for this show, and tell them this is your favorite one. Bill, what's your favorite game?
I love it. And you never know. You could end up in a blind pig pickleball place. Final question. If you could have dinner with one person, this person could be alive or deceased, who would it be?
Alive or deceased? Can I pick Jesus?
Actually, that's who I picked. When someone asked me that on a podcast, so I stole it. Yep.
Okay, so most people say I can't pick that. If I couldn't pick that, it would probably be like George Washington or Martin Luther King Jr. Somebody like that. It's just massively instrumental in history.
No, they're all great.
And I just found a way to say 3.
That's all right. I'm sure that all get along. They're all leaders in their own way.
Awesome, you guys. Awesome. Well, I hate to cut this one short, but I know we can talk on this topic absolutely forever. And Bill, I got a million questions. I think every time I see you now, I'll just start chipping away at them. But again, the first time I ever seen you speak or really been around your audience was at, Flip Hack Live, which, that was a fantastic event. I don't know how many hundreds of people you had there, or maybe pushing 1,000. The place was packed, but great event.
I think we had like 1,100 people that year that you guys were there. Yeah,
dude, that was awesome. And again, I think the biggest thing that I took away from that, again, not being in the tax world every single day and not being in the real estate investing world every single day, is just the different types of people that are in it. So I think, not that I ever give any advice to anybody, but this is, again, coming from somebody in the middle. There's almost no reason why you can't get into that space, right? But would you agree with that? Obviously, unless you got something else going on, but.
I totally agree. Real estate does not discriminate. So like, it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. None of it matters. Like, you can get into it for sure. It's possible. It doesn't matter if you were homeless. Like, there's a 20-year-old kid that's making $700,000 net profit in my community right now. And we've got a like 82-year-old woman who's making like $400,000 or $500,000 a year in real estate. So like, it does not matter. It does not discriminate. You can get into it. You should have to have the right mindset, the right path, the right mentor, the right people, the right influence, and a little bit of skill set and a lot of kind of like grit and determination at the beginning. You can do it for sure. It's not easy, but it's simple.
That's the best way to close it out. So again, thank you for taking the time to join us. Chris, I guess thank you too. You know, I don't tell you thank you for joining your own show, but you know, thanks, pal.
My pleasure, John.
All right, gentlemen. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, here on the Teaching Tax Flow podcast. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and we will see you back here, same time, but different day, and a different topic here on the show. Hey everyone, and thanks for hanging out with us here on the Teaching Tax Flow podcast. As I mentioned, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bill, for taking the time to discuss this topic with us. I know a lot of people in the community have been asking about this directly, indirectly, just having questions conversationally. So we're glad to do this. This is a great one. Couldn't think of anybody better than Bill Allen to join us and discuss this topic on real estate investing. As Bill had mentioned, he's got his hands into a lot of stuff, very successful in this world. As obviously, as everybody else knows too, Chris being the tax guy, especially in the real estate world, it's great to get these two gentlemen together. We won't call it hash it out by any stretch of the imaginations, because it sounds like they believe in both the same stuff, which makes the conversations a lot easier to have. So I do want to highlight a few things here that Bill had mentioned and we started to talk about a bit, is really the barriers that you may think exist when it comes to real estate investing probably don't exist. And really, you might just be in your own way, frankly put, in regards to that. So definitely connect with Bill and his team. Any questions on that topic, or anything on those topics, I should say, they are a fantastic source of information, as well as teaching tax flow. As always, anything on the tax side, we are here to assist with. So as always, don't get in your own way. Let us know how we can help. See everybody very soon.
Investment advisory services are offered through Cabin Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cabin Securities, a registered broker-dealer. The content of this podcast does not constitute an offer of securities. Offerings can only be made through an offering memorandum, and you should carefully examine the risk factors and other information contained in the memorandum.